Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Civil Engineering CEO Show. In today's episode, we're going to be highlighting the top 10 actions that AEC leaders and professionals need to take in the industry in order for them to succeed. Now, these actions were provided by some of the leading CEOs in our industry, and these are things that they've used to cultivate a positive work environment and bring success to their firms. But because there were so many different actions, and awesome actions rather, for us to choose from, we decided to make a compilation of the top 10 actions and tips and how we can all take some valuable information from them. But before we jump right in, here's a quick word from our sponsor for this episode, Tensar, a division of CMC.
Check out Tensar Plus,
the award-winning design software for construction professionals to design with geosynthetics and calculate their value on projects. Tensar Plus is simple to use with a powerful engineering system at its core. It leverages our decades of research and experience with soils all over the world, so you can count on your solutions working the first time, even in the most difficult conditions. Whether you're designing a crane pad or need to build a temporary road over muck, the cost, time, and carbon savings can be calculated, making comparison with alternatives simple. Specs, reports, and product data can be generated for your design, and training resources, research, and our third-party expert reviews are all provided conveniently in the software if needed. Usable both online and offline, the app is available in browser and on all major mobile platforms. Whatever you're working on, Tensar Plus is your toolbox for success.
Now, here are the top 10 actions that professionals need to run a successful operation. Let's start off with lesson number 1, which is being a servant leader. So in episode number 4, we spoke with Ori Eliyahu. Now, Ori is a president and a CEO at NGO, and he started off by saying that they draw the organizational chart with him at the bottom of the chart, and they try to live that way every single day. As leaders, it's their job to serve, and they measure their own individual successes by the growth and the successes of the people that they serve. Now, this is very interesting to me because not often do we hear that a leader is taking a bottom-up approach to organizational structure. And this method alone is the epitome of servant leadership. Next, we have action number 2, and this is the importance of trust. So in episode number 6, we spoke with Iris Laurel, and she's the CEO and a civil engineer at Capital Engineering and Consulting. So we talked a little bit about the significance in trust in company building, and here's what she had to say about it. She said that she's always believed strongly that a company can't grow without people working in it who have the skills to delegate. And being able to delegate takes the ability to trust. So when we asked her about how to build trust, she stated that it's just a process and it doesn't happen overnight. It's about hiring good people, and that in and of itself takes trust in oneself and your own intuition. So that when you're meeting with somebody and there's a giant red flag that goes off, they're not a good fit, you're able to isolate that. So trusting yourself and say to yourself, you know that you can walk away from this and someone who's a good fit will actually show up. And then once they do show up, you let go. And again, she can't say this enough. It's a process and it takes time. And it's not just about trusting others. The trust in oneself develops at the same time. And again, trust is crucial for the growth of an engineering firm. You have to hire a team of people that are dedicated to providing outstanding work and building the company forward. And now for action number 3. So in episode number 8 of the Civil Engineering CEO, we had the pleasure of speaking with Joanna Gesner. Now, she is the CEO at Gesner Engineering, and Joanna wanted to share about how Gesner focuses on client and employee experiences for firm growth. So she stated that it's about making sure that what they've promised is what's actually being delivered and handling any of the problems along the way. A lot of her role is about the development of staff, and so that really gets into the non-technical component there. And Joanna also spoke about determining value, which she refers to as high payoff activities. And she states that they talk about what is a high payoff activity for them, what's high value, and what's going to give you the best bang for your buck, and doesn't matter to your clients. Now, it has to matter, and it adds value not only internally, but externally. So when you're choosing what you're investing in, you have to pay attention to those things. Moving on to action number 4, succession planning. So in episode number 9, we spoke about succession planning and how to plan for the next generation of engineering leaders in a firm. So we talked to Matt Hoying, who's the president at Choice One Engineering, about this. And he talked a little bit about his own experience and how he was given a succession plan to become the next president of his organization. So he stated that he had taken a lot of learning and a lot of talks with other company leaders, and that it's not always the case in a lot of places to have a succession plan in place. So sometimes all you really have is that 6 months. Now, for one, with that succession plan, it helped him, but it also helped everyone else in his company to be comfortable with that transition because they knew what was happening. They had the chance to get to know him and his leadership style and to determine whether they were going to be a good fit within the next generation of Choice One Engineering. So a succession plan is critical for individuals' upwards mobility because you have to know which direction you're going in and the possible outcomes. Plus, to Matt's point, it helps to give transparency company-wide to ensure a smooth transition. In episode number 7, we covered action number 5. Now here we learned about how we can keep engineering teams connected and how to also ensure the emotional well-being of that team in a hybrid environment for that matter. So we talked to Ron Wathen about this, and he is the president of QK Engineering. And here's what he had to say. So he thinks that it's really important to just recognize how hard their jobs actually are because they have an incredibly difficult job. And things aren't always going to go perfectly. And so just coming in with a healthy respect and a sense of gratitude for what they need to do and how they need to do it helps them to be more successful. So his job is to help them to have the tools and the resources that they need to be successful. And in today's world, it's not just a single person that's doing any project. It's a team. So they really need to focus, and they really do focus on being one connected team at QK. And that collaboration is really important, and that not one of them is as smart as all of them. So in reference to keeping his team connected at QK, Ron had stated that they had a real sense of connectedness during that time, and it was a crisis. And they were all committed to working together, and they found out that they could actually work remotely in an environment that could be effective at checking in. So they had daily check-ins, and they knew that the world was coming back to a more in-person world. But as they were doing it, they were looking at it as if there were some people that can do remote hybrid work just fine, but there are some others where they feel like there could be some career stunting, especially with the younger engineers and the professionals that are younger as well. So how do they get that face time with the clients? How do they get the mentoring from the senior engineers? And they knew that some of that could happen through the remote working environment, which worked very, very well for them. All right, coming in at number 6, we have a philosophy that was actually shared with us by Edward Para of Para & Co. So in episode 12, he shared an important leadership philosophy that civil engineers need to have in order for them to become better leaders. And he also states that he likes to give people as much latitude as they can have. And he tries to give a specific instruction on the goal that he wants to achieve and the path that he thinks that they need to take for it. And he lets them loose, and they're in charge of making that very thing happen. He also states that they have a very open floor plan, so it's not like his door is open, it's that he doesn't have a door at all. So anybody can really just walk in to his desk at any time and ask him any questions that they have. And it's worked very well for them. He doesn't have any time to micromanage anybody, and he thinks that the trick for that specifically is to hire drivers and people that will take the ball and run with it. And if they don't know, then they research it. And then we'll discuss why it is that they chose to do what they do. And also, why do they think that that's the best way to do it? They always value engineering amongst themselves. Now, continuing on, he states that in general, his employees have quite a bit of latitude. And one of the things that he truly believes in is that most things are not invented yet. And if you give your staff the space for creativity, they can surprise you with answers that you haven't thought about. And when you do a good job hiring, you might end up with a product that's better than something that you could have designed yourself. Now, this is really important. And I love how Eduardo allows his team to be themselves and to stand on their own opinions. I mean, it's so important for leaders to carry this very, very same philosophy. One common thing that I want to note through some of these actions mentioned before is that the hiring process is just as important as all of the actions that will be mentioned today. Now, Eduardo here referenced hiring drivers, not just passengers. And I think it's important to distinguish the difference between the two. Because if you want your firm to reach new levels of success, you'll have to delegate critical tasks to capable team members. And I also love how Eduardo mentioned the open door policy and the willingness to allow his staff to bring in new ideas. Now moving on to number 7. In episode 14, we discussed The Importance of Adaptability in an Engineering Career with President of Davis, Bowen, and Friedel, Ring Lardner. Now, Ring states that every situation is different, and as long as you remain calm and you stick with the facts and leave the emotion out of the conversation, you can focus on the problem. When emotions get involved in conversations, you tend to lose the facts of the conversation and what it is that you're trying to solve. So he tries not to be emotionless, but to try to remove those emotions out of the conversations. And he thinks that it helps out quite a bit. Now, Ring also goes on to state that as the president, multiple things come to him all the time. Whereas when you're a young engineer or a designer, you had probably one product that you needed to work on. And as you move up in the company, you know who's watching. It's going to change because of different factors. It can be that someone called out sick that day. Okay, then if that's the case, you make an adjustment or you can go for this thing. So it's always being adaptable and adjustable. And that's the key part to the job. Being adept or being there for your staff and for your clients, because at the end of the day, that's what they've hired you to do, to help them to solve their problem and to help them with their project. All right, coming in at number 8, we have a tip from Jeremy Billig, who is the CEO and the president at McLaurin Engineering Group. In episode 15, he goes on to talk about building company culture and cohesiveness. Now, Jeremy states that culture is a complicated yet a very, very simple word. And there's a lot of aspects to it. It's the personality of the firm. It's the vibe that you get when you walk into the door and when you interact with people. It's kind of more relatable to their brand. Now, what is their brand? Now, he also states that some of that culture is sort of their entrepreneurial mindset. Now, it's the willingness to take on new work and get into new markets, even if it may be a subservice that's associated with their work. But on the other aspect, it's the people and it's how they work together. Now, it's very cliche for them to say that they're pro teamwork and working, all for one, one for all. But he states that those are very, very real things. Now, executing that is not as easy as it sounds. Creating an environment for teamwork, especially in the state of hybrid, can be very challenging, and it takes relationships. Culture is about fostering those relationships. It's about working together. It's about collaboration, interaction. It's all about the energy of solving a problem together. Now, they're an employee-owned firm that believes strongly that the success of one is the success of all. But on the flip side, the failure of one can be the failure of all. But they're all there to pick each other up and help each other through whatever that challenge may be. But that culture really starts, he thinks, at the hiring process. Now, it's easy to look back and say, why is your culture getting off pace? And then you can look at the people and you can say, well, how did that person get into the door when they didn't want the culture at your firm? Now, culture to me is another huge part of a company's success. Being a leader, satisfaction, or rather excellence across the board should be the number one priority. Now, that's for all of your projects. Now, that's also for your clients and also for your team. But in regards to your team specifically, think about it like you're on a paddle boat. And when a team member doesn't contribute, it negatively affects the speed of the boat. And this is the same thing in business, in my opinion. When your team isn't fully immersed, it can slow down your process by way of the lack of retention, lack of dedication to the work, and even low company morale. Creating culture in your workplace and making it enjoyable is one way to address that problem. You want to create an environment where your team is 100% into the work that they do and the company that they represent. All right, now as we approach the end of this list, let's go on to action number 9 with John A. Sartor. Now, he's the president and the CEO of PS&S. And in episode 16 of the podcast, John focused on the balance between delegation and hands-on management and engineering. Now, he went on to state that there's things that only you can do, and there's things that other people can do around you. And you have to decide, all right, you need to delegate. And again, that's with everything. That's if you're going from a technical profession to a project manager, if you're going from a project manager to a supervisor. You have to know when to say when and when to delegate. A part of delegation is, quite frankly, having good people around you that you trust. Now, he also stated that you have to listen. So it's a matter of knowing when to delegate, having people around you that you trust to delegate to, and then knowing when to listen and listen to them and make sure that you implement the feedback that they are giving you. And last but not least, we have number 10. And in episode 21, we highlighted one important skill that you need for success with Michael A. Shama. Now, he's the president and the CEO at Sam Schwartz Engineering. And when we talked about that skill, he said, how do you remove the limits so that you can continue to grow and really be limitless in what you can accomplish? And when he thinks about this, most people are saying that they want the ability to solve problems. They want the ability to do this and they want the ability to do that. And to him, all of that is a given. Integrity is a given as well. And if you don't have those things, you just can't be an engineer. So he wanted to go above and beyond that. And he thought about the word compassion. And he defines the word compassion as the desire and the action to improve the human condition. And then he went on to say that he thinks that as engineers, and he's heard other engineers talk about this, they ask, why do you get into engineering? And then some say that they wanted to make the world a better place. They wanted to save the world. They wanted to make their communities better. And to him, that all really fits under that umbrella of compassion. He also states that we have one planet, that we have hopefully many more generations to come that are going to inhabit this planet, and that we have to leave it better than how we found it. And to him, every project that they do, if you think about the way that projects used to be done, let's say in the Robert Moses era, they were done with no compassion. You just go through a neighborhood, you wipe it out, and you put in a highway. The projects are there to serve the community, to serve the people, and not the other way around. So unless you have compassion for the human condition and wanting to make human beings' lives better, then you're really not doing engineering the right way. So there you have it, everyone. Those are the 10 actions that all AEC professionals and leaders need to succeed. Now we'll list them here. The first one is being a servant leader, building trust, focusing on client and employee experiences, succession planning, staying connected, having a great leadership philosophy, being adaptable, building company culture and cohesiveness, balancing when to be hands-on and when to delegate, and also being a compassionate leader. So I hope that you all enjoyed this video today. We put out videos just like this on a weekly basis to help engineers to become better leaders and managers in the AEC industry. I'll see you all next time.